Good evening, everybody. This is Arun Mehra here tonight, and welcome to one of our webinars today. And I'd like to say we're going to be talking about what profitable practices do right. Now, it's going to be a short webinar tonight. It's about 20 minutes, so I'm going to be quite intentional and cover off some subjects that hopefully will be interesting and relevant to you as well. Now, what profitable practices do right? I've got 5 tips I'm going to dwell on. But before I start on this subject, if you've got any questions or anything like that, please fire away. I'll try and answer them as quickly as I can, but bear in mind this webinar will be only about 20 minutes in duration, 20-25 minutes in duration. So let's get these slides going. Let's move forward. So who am I? For those of you who have never attended any of my webinars, I'm the owner and the MD of the Smera Group. We're chartered accountants. We sell dental practices and help people buy dental practices. We provide financing or FCA regulated to help people raise finance. So we cover the whole spectrum of dentistry in terms of the business and finance aspects. In addition, I'm the co-owner of the Neem Tree Dental Group with my wife Smita. We're founders of it. So you may have seen some of our clinics dotted around the London area. I've been working with dentists for over 15 years, and we have hundreds of dental clients literally all over the UK and beyond. Me as an individual, I'm definitely a multiple entrepreneur. I wear many hats and I have business interests in various angles. So a lot of the ideas I'm going to be sharing tonight, I also work within other businesses as well. I'm a trained chartered accountant with PricewaterhouseCoopers London, which seems such a long time ago, and an ex-vice president of Bank of America. So let's crack on. You know enough about me. Some figures. Well, I'm an accountant, so give me some credibility, I suppose. So these are some figures that have come actually from another source, but show what the average UK dental practice figures are like. So the average practice across the UK, and bear in mind there are thousands of practices across the UK, average turnover is over 440 grand, and then lab bills account for about 32 grand. Material costs about 35 grand. So you can see straight away, lab bills and material account for about 15%. Now this is the average. Now there's room to improve those. Staff costs are around 17% of an average practice, hence leading to other overheads of around 19% and operating profit of 24.6%. So very average figures showing an average dental practice. Now the whole point of me tonight was I'm an accountant. I could dwell and bore you to tears on numbers and changing things, but I thought it's going to be much more applicable and useful for you, for the listeners and watchers here tonight, to understand what are the real top tips to improve the performance of a business like this. So whilst I could talk about numbers, I don't want to make you yawn and put you to sleep. I want to literally keep it quite brief, swift and short for you. Just bear with me a second. So before I get on to my tips, so tip 1, what are they? Hire and retain superstars. Now, this to me, having owned various businesses and involved in various businesses, this is the most important one probably. I've seen it in so many dental practices where people hire staff for the sake of hiring staff because they need a nurse, they need a front desk manager, they need a receptionist, they need a practice manager, they need an associate. But really, quite often or not, they're not hiring the right people for that team. So tip 1 really is all about being very thorough in your recruitment process and hire people that are better than you in the role that you are hiring for. Now, that's so important. It's always right to get people who are better than you. If you can't hire people better than you and what you're doing, what they can do, then don't hire them. And there's a famous book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and his phrase was always get the right people on the bus, and if they've got the wrong people on the bus, move them off the bus as quickly as possible. And that's very true as well. So get the right people on the bus, and as I said earlier, don't hire because you have to. Hire someone that's going to make a difference to your practice, someone's going to add value, someone's going to change things, someone who's going to make it a really positive, growable businesses. And when you hire those people, there's no point in just hiring them and then keeping them for 6 months. You want to retain them. So it's really important to retain these superstars. So you may need to pay them well or better. You need to give them certain benefits that they may desire or you may think suit them. And really remember, quality follows quality. So if you pay peanuts, as a phrase goes, you'll get monkeys. So really don't do that. Pay them well and get the right type of people. And at the same time, motivate the team, okay? And how do you motivate? Well, motivate with certain incentives and presenting them with some exciting opportunities. So a great phrase out there and a great point I've really realized in business myself is always give the biggest opportunities to your best people, not the worst opportunities or the not so exciting bits of the work. Give the biggest and best opportunities to your best people. And that goes in the same in your dental practice. Give the biggest and best opportunities to the really good people within your business. And then have some incentives. People might want a basic salary, but have incentives. You might have an incentive to take people away, or further financial incentives, or certain training, or certain courses that people can go on, or take people to Paris or to France or to Barcelona or wherever. And I know lots and lots of clinics that are doing this. So to really make sure that they hire the right people and then retain these superstars. So that's tip 1. If I can move on to tip 2, this computer's playing a little bit down with me. Hold on. Just want to make sure this works all right. Tip 2, right. Always put patients first. That's tip 2. Now, it could be the same if it's any business. If it's another business, not dentistry, it could be you're selling widgets, okay? But the point here is always put patients first. Put their interests first. Put them above yours, put them above the team's, make them feel special. And therefore, if you make your patients feel valued, not just feel like another patient, things can happen. Magical things can happen, because really then those types of patients who you treat well, respect well, look after, will then be those ones who will refer you on to other patients similar to themselves. Build a culture of caring and a real good service and make them feel special. How do you make them feel special? I have clients who do a variety of things, how to make people feel special. Certain clients, patients, and them feel special. One example I know of is where when a patient's had a big treatment plan and it's all over, what do? They go to the organise a fancy tea for the patient and their loved one to go to the Ritz in London. What does it cost? Maybe a couple of £100 to do, but in the scheme of things, that's nothing compared to what the patient's paid, maybe several £1,000s. So that makes them feel special. And it's not necessarily the dentistry that they'll remember, it's how you made them feel and how you made them feel so special, that will be remembered, and that will be the thing that they'll tell other patients for you. So always put the patients first. But in order to do that, it's so important to get the basics right. And getting the basics right to be able to look after patients is actually hiring the right team in the first place. Now, hands up, as an experienced businessman, I've been there, done that, made every possible mistake out there, hired the wrong people, gone for the cheap option, and realised, what have I done? It's only later on in life, 15 odd years experience in business, you realise what actually matters. And what does actually matter is getting these basics right, putting the patients first and hiring the right team that can help you put those patients first. Hope that makes sense. Then tip 3, become a leader. Now, what do I mean by that? And you may have heard these terms before, but you need to lead your team where you want them to go and set the expected standards. So you may have a vision, you may have a wonderful aspiration to where your business is going to be, but your team need to help you get there. You're not going to be able to do it yourself. You're going to need good people that you've hired who are going to help you achieve that vision, achieve that goal. So, and at the same time, you've got to have standards that they need to aspire to achieve. Now, if you have the wrong team, as I said earlier, don't bother with the wrong team. It'll just be a costly exercise, and you need to start again. So, and then you and find that right team before you actually hire, and before you actually take them on the journey. So, as I said earlier, get the people on the bus. Once you've got the right people on the bus, then together with those right people on the bus, you can then help them. You can then decide with them where you're going to take the bus to, i.e. where you're going to take the business to. So what I'm trying to say is lead your team and get the right people to lead in the first place. And then thirdly, become a really great listener. And I think for me, from my own experience of running businesses and learning from the mistakes I've made more than anything, is become a great listener. Because if you listen to your team, they'll tell you what needs to be done. Don't listen to one individual, you need to listen to the team. Okay, the team will tell you what's going wrong. And if you've got one bad egg in your team, the team will tell you that's that bad egg, and that's the job to perhaps move that bad egg on if necessary. So a great team will support the leader, but you need to lead, and therefore you need to lead by example. You need to be leading, get clarifying your vision, and getting the customer or getting the team to understand what you're trying to achieve, and get your hands dirty. And I've seen it time and time again where sometimes owners of businesses, owners of practices don't want to get their hands dirty, and they think it's below themselves to muck in at the bottom. I think that's completely the wrong way to approach it. And if you're mopping the floor and your team member sees that, they see that you're a very humble and willing to get involved and actually work with those people, and appreciate how hard it is maybe to mop the floor. So simple points, but a leader is actually who says, let's do it, not you do it. Okay, so let's do it, not you do it. Okay, think about those words, but semantics are very important in this. So done 3 tips so far without talking any numbers really. Okay, but I have to get onto the numbers because in my heart of hearts, I am an accountant. Number 4, get a grip of the numbers. Now, what does that mean? So some little tips are: review all costs annually in your practice, and shop around if you need to. So get your set of accounts, and then look at, are you getting value for money for all the services and things that you're buying through your practice? We do this every year in all our businesses to say, okay, do we need this firstly? That's the first question. What do we get? And if we do need it, are we getting a good price for it? And if not, start shopping around. And that could be things such as materials, it could be for labs, it could be for legal services, it could be for marketing services, it could be anything really. It could be broadband, anything really. But review all your costs. And then at the same time, be aware of how your business is performing. Don't put your head in the sand and wait till January and say, oh, I'm going to pay this tax bill and I don't have the cash. Know your performance, know how much cash you've got to have saved, and at the same time, how much you've got to have ready to pay the tax man in January and July. So get a grip of those numbers. When it comes to negotiating, you need to negotiate your costs with suppliers and labs, and really get a good relationship with people, so that if you think you're not getting good value, you can tell them, and then maybe they may even match some other people. So, and that's something we've done very recently, I know, in our clinics, where we were with a very well-known, long-standing dental material supplier, and eventually we decided to leave them because their service was starting to not be so great, and secondly, their costs weren't that attractive anymore. So we thought, you know what, let's jump ship. When people can become a little bit complacent, you may need to jump ship as well and change suppliers. And then another point is, within a practice, make sure your materials are used by everybody. Don't have one team member wanting one set of materials, another team member wanting another set of materials. Try and make sure that everyone's in agreement and they work to it. And then set a budget and stick to it. So if you've got say £1,000 to spend on materials in a month, stick to that budget, stick to it, and don't try and go over. And you might need to buy a little bit more next month, a little bit less the following month, but try and stick to your budget. And one of the other tips that one of my colleagues mentioned, Farisa mentioned, is beware of BOGOF, buy one, get one free offers. A lot of these suppliers provide them, but quite often or not, they put the prices up to actually justify it. So get a grip of the numbers, be aware, know your figures, understand your figures. Can't stress that more than anything, okay? And take that from an accountant. Tip 5, the 5th tip, how profitable practices succeed and do very well, they build a digital brand. And this is all about marketing, and you could quite easily spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands on marketing, but where everything's heading to now and how you're going to market your practice, whilst there are many offline opportunities which are plentiful, if you look at the really successful practices now, they build a very strong digital brand. So they embrace digital marketing strongly. Firstly, they have a very strong website, which is very client friendly or very patient friendly, with enough information. They optimize it for SEO purposes. They use pay-per-click on Google or Facebook and a variety of other things. And they then analyze how their performance is, and they monitor it. They also do quite often call tracking, so they can match where the lead came from and listen to the calls that have come into the reception and see that. And if you can't do that, you don't need to do it. You need to just build a team to support you to do these. I've put social media down. Some clinics I know do very well with social media. I'm not a huge fan of it. Maybe it's because of my grey hairs. I'm a bit, maybe 20 years too late. I'm never... I think but there is certainly mileage to do well if you do it right and you put a lot of effort into it. At the same time, you can also build a brand where you can measure results. That's what I mean is one of our clients, they focus on getting reviews such as Google reviews or Trustpilot reviews. And you can measure how many you've got, and you can review them. You can then see what's working, what's not working. So build a brand where you can measure results. And I suppose the tip I'm trying to get to here is, if you're going to market, I would put £5 into online marketing and maybe 50p into offline marketing these days now. Even less, to be honest. I'd put all my money into online marketing. That's where the market's going. That's where everyone's using their smartphones, everything. So build a digital brand, and if you're quite tech savvy and you enjoy that, there's a real scope to really dominate your little marketplace wherever you may be. So those are 5 tips I've highlighted. Tip 1 being, just to go back to highlight it, was hire and retain superstars. Always put patients first, become a leader, and demonstrate leadership skills, really get a grip of the numbers, and at the same time build that digital brand. That's really important. Now, 3 actions. We're up to 17 minutes, so I've got another 3 or 4 minutes to go. Let's make sure we've got that. Hold on. So, bear with me a second. So I've got 3 actions I want you to, as a result of seeing these tips, I've got 3 actions I want you to take tomorrow. Get your accounts and look at them and find 3 costs you can reduce and contact alternative suppliers. That's the first action. Number 2, so it's quite easy. If you've got your set of accounts for your practice, you'll be able to find what costs they are, dig a bit deeper, and just identify 3 things that you could actually change. Number 2, search for your practice online. Go onto Google and do a search. If you can't see your practice coming up, you've got to do something about that. Whether it's pay-per-click, where you advertise and pay some money for every time someone clicks and you're at the top of Google for the search terms, or you do some SEO work, or you do a combination of both. So that's another action, and you might need some help to do that. Find some professional help to do that, and we can advise if you need to. And number 3, be honest and look at your team. And this goes back to the point I stressed right at the beginning. If someone isn't right for your team and is affecting the whole practice, make some plans to change this. Find that right dream team. Getting the dream team is everything. If you haven't got the right team, your business might plod along, but it won't be firing on all cylinders. Get that dream team, get the wrong people in the team out of the business, and therefore be honest with yourself and look around your clinic, look around your practice and see, who do I think I need to get rid of, if at all? Maybe you have a wonderful team. Or who do I need to think maybe need to develop? I don't know. But have that conversation with the right people to find that out. Okay, so we're up at 20 minutes. I've got a few more slides to go, and we're keeping this nice and short. Now, this is a quote I found online, and this is a very famous person. You might not recognize this face, but I'll tell you who it is in a moment. Luck is a dividend of sweat. The more you sweat, the luckier you get. If you work just for money, you'll never make it. But if you love what you're doing and you always put the customer first, success will be yours. The quality of a leader is reflected in the standards they set for themselves. As long as you're green, you're growing. As soon as you're ripe, you start to rot. the two most important requirements for major success are first, being in the right place at the right time, and second, doing something about it. You're only as good as the people you hire. Are you green and growing or ripe and rotting? All money means to me is a pride in accomplishment. Now that man is Ray Kroc. Now Ray Kroc, you may know, was the chap behind the success of McDonald's, who started the McDonald's chain back in the 50s in the USA. And they've grown it to one of the biggest brands out there. And if you look at the quote he said here, it's a couple of points that really come out of this. Leadership. So the quality of a leader is reflected in the standards that they set themselves. So he has high standards. And if you're a leader, you need to have high standards in yourself, but also in your team. And also he says towards the end, you're only as good as the people you hire. Hire the right people. You hire poor people, you'll have a poor result. So hire the right people. Take that from someone who's done that myself in experience in running a business, and realize that I've hired people maybe because they were cheaper, but not necessarily the best thing for the business as a whole. So that's a good old Ray Kroc. We're up at the 20 minutes point now. So before we wrap up, just one couple of things to highlight. You may have seen some emails that have come out to you. If you've liked what you've heard here today, it's only a 20-minute taster. We're actually going to do a much, much bigger 5-hour session at the end of the month, 1 hour a day on the 29th, the 30th, 31st, and the 1st and 2nd of Feb at 8 p.m. daily. And what we'll be doing is talking a lot more on each of these subjects, expanding on what we've talked about tonight on what profitable practices do right. The second day will be marketing. Day 3 will be more about finance and understanding finance. Day 4 will be about leading and building a motivated team. And day 5, mistakes to avoid when growing a practice. If you book before the 26th, it's 199 plus VAT. It's certainly a limited spaces, and it's on a first come, first served basis. Tonight's webinar is actually full. So I imagine, whilst we won't get everyone coming to this one, the paying one, because it's a paid one as opposed to a free one, I imagine we'll get a large take up. But one thing to highlight, all webinars are recorded, and if you do sign up, you'll be able to watch those at later dates if you wish to. And before each webinar, I'll be asking for questions. You may want some questions. You might want to email them in. I can certainly address those at that time. So watch out after this webinar. I'll be sending a link and relevant information, also with a recording to this webinar as well. So I strongly suggest, if you really want to transform your profits, attend this. I'll be sharing a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and I will be bringing in various parties into helping and talking. So I know Smita will be coming to talk on some of the marketing and the leadership aspects of this as well. So in summary, today we're at 23 minutes. Inspire your team, hire superstars, always put patient first, get a grip on the numbers, and build a digital brand. Next week's webinar, which is a free webinar again will be about 20 minutes. Marketing and patient care. Smita will be joining, Dr. Smita Mehra, who's actually the managing director of the Neem Tree Dental Group, but happens to be my wife, so it's quite easy. We'll be joining in the discussion, and if anything is like tonight, it will get booked up in full. So sign up to look to avoid disappointment so you get a space on this webinar. I hope you found it useful, interesting, and insightful. And I'll sign off now. And whilst we want to get tips and be successful and make some profits, at the same time, have some fun. Thank you very much. Good night.